which programs each CTSA offers. And one of the mandatory programs is community engagement. And the sole purpose of that is to train and embed people who reflect their communities so that when clinical trials are offered, there's a local resource or a trusted person that can answer questions or be a liaison. And in the Georgia CTSA, our leaders are primarily based out of Morehouse School of Medicine and the University of Georgia. UGA represents a lot of rural communities who are very underserved, and Morehouse is embedded with our urban as well as our rural communities. So I hope that that reinforces that there is awareness now that we haven't served all our constituents, but absolutely there's an effort being tailored to improve that. Mapillar, are there other accessibility issues that patient may experience that you could make the audience aware of?
Absolutely, Karen. I think a huge accessibility issue is, having health insurance cover transplants. And I say transplants because that's something that's really near and dear to the sickle cell community. Some insurance plans don't pay for transplants at all, and others pay for transplants, but they don't pay for the cost to find a donor. And even when they do pay, there are still costs associated with, co-pays for medicine and doctor visits or transportation or temporary housing when having transplant. And for a patient community that is so impacted socioeconomically, that becomes a bit much.
Thank you. That really does personalize the surrounding costs of not only the procedure, but the entire out-of-pocket costs.
Right.
So even if your procedure was covered, you may not be able to afford the ancillary costs. So that's something we all need to be aware of and be looking at ways to combat that barrier. Sharon, the theme of this event is health equity and access in patient time of crisis. Can you tell us what the industry is doing to address minority representation in trials and what efforts they're trying to do to build trust?
Absolutely. Thank you for that question, Karen. And on behalf of the 34 different pharma companies, everybody's engaging in different levels in different ways. So I would be remiss in giving a one answer fits all because everybody's doing different things, as dictated by their company business practice. But has looked at addressing health inequalities, and recently, just in June, awarded $100,000 worth of grants to 4 different projects that are devoted to things from hypertension and managed hypertension and cardiac disease and communities of color. And health inequities is a huge issue for our pharma trade association because it isn't so important. If we don't have diverse representation, the treatment population truly won't be reflected. And I can't tell you how great Mapillar and your work, Karen, has been in this area because we need everyone working together on this. I know there can be more done, but I am very proud of what our industry is doing and trying to reflect that. And maybe it is coverage barriers in clinical trials. Some clinical trials do cover some of the adverse events or kind of comorbidity or things that happen in clinical trials to recipients. And that's wonderful. Some people do cover transportation and telemedicine costs and devices, but we need to see universal focus on recruitment and coverage on these clinical trials. But we've come quite a ways in my 18 years. I'm very proud of what all our industry's done.
Thank you. So we've heard from Sharon kind of the industry overview, and Mapillar has certainly put the personal face to this. Returning to COVID, Mapillar, despite the devastation that COVID has had, it's really shined the light on the health disparities across populations. Do you see this as an opportunity for patients, particularly those of color? And do you have any reaction to Sharon's comments on the industry response?
You're so right, Karen. For one, the disparities in healthcare for people of color is now a global issue, a global conversation. More and more people are talking about it, and it is being covered by the media. So people who wouldn't normally pay attention before are now aware of our plight. This is a good thing. Hopefully, it will make decision makers really look at the disparities and come up with real strategies to tackle this problem. Now, whether or not this is an opportunity for patients of color to have better access to care, it may be too soon to tell, but I would definitely hope so. In response to what Karen said, there's no denying that much is being done. As she said, within her 18 years, she has seen a whole lot of progress. And I think, you know, a lot of progress has been made, but there's more to be done, definitely. And so the more we can work together to make sure that everyone is at the table and being a part of the decision making, I think that is going to go a long way to making sure that everyone is covered.
That's right. Thank you. Thank you to our speakers. Thank you to our sponsor. We are hoping that the devastation COVID has caused can be turned around and put a spotlight on some issues that we never even imagined that it would. We're hoping that COVID is going to advance research, is going to advance medicine, is going to advance outreach to populations that couldn't access care in the past due to transportation or financial issues. So we're really hoping that there's a silver lining to what we've all gone through in the past several months. Thank you so much to our speakers. We had two really different perspectives, the injury versus the heart of a mom, and really living and breathing chronic illness and access to trials. And we invite you now to stay tuned and join us to our next session.
Karen, actually, we have one question really quickly, if we can.
Oh, absolutely.
The pillar, from the personal perspective of a patient with an illness without any FDA treatments for ME and CFS, what would you say was the turning point in sickle cell treatment, going from 0 treatments to several?
Oh, wow. I think if nothing else, it's just the hope factor. Even when patients did not have access to the drug, just knowing that going from one that was very revolutionary for our community to now having about 4 treatments it's not only heartwarming, it signifies hope for even people in, say, Africa who don't have access to these drugs now, but they know that there is a chance that they too may benefit from these new therapies. And for a patient population that sometimes it feels like nobody cares, that's a big deal.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And thank you guys for this great conversation. We do have files and for access for you through this session, but now we will head on over to our next one. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye, ladies.